That's my graphic.
Wait, when you come on the screen, it'll look.
You're going to hide behind me?
You're probably live.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you want to hide behind me? Okay, okay, behind me. Okay.
You're live.
No, hide. You have to hide behind me. Come on. Hey, welcome to OnSet. I'm Daniel Norton. This is Marissa Roper. Seth's over here on the mighty mixer. And welcome to OnSet. We're going to do some headshots. Did I say welcome twice? Yeah, they're always. We're going to talk about three kind of go-to headshot setups. I get a lot of questions about lighting patterns, and usually I say, move the light around until it looks good, which is, I think, sound advice. But sometimes you want to have some go-to stuff. So this is going to be what we're going to go through today. I'm going to set up three different kind of types of lighting, and we'll see how they look on Marissa. They should be, these are kind of generic. They should look decent on anybody. Depending on your subject, one will look better than the other, so you can go from there. I will attempt to say all the equipment I'm using as I go, but I almost always forget as soon as I start. So if I'm using something and you want to know what it is, please ask, I will tell you. If you don't know, by the way, we stream online on Facebook and YouTube. So if somehow you cannot make it, you're on a date, you have a family reunion, whatever, you're home, you can get your phone out, you can watch the stream that way on Facebook and YouTube. I'm going to be live every Thursday for the most part, so if I'm not here at Adorama, I'll be live on my channel, Daniel Norton Photographer, so follow me, and you see those antics. It's basically like this, but with more swearing. All right, so let's go. All right, so I'm going to start with the basic kind of, do you want to stand or sit?
Either one is good.
Are you going to stay in one space if I let you stand?
No.
Okay, get a seat. All right, so we're going to go with, did I make that one A as well? No, it's B, okay. So I'm using ProPhoto monolights. So monolight is a flash that is self-contained, if you guys don't know that. So this is a B1X, as is the one over there, and this one's a D2. Almost doesn't matter. I mean, there's reasons to buy different kinds of flashes. That's a whole different thing. Just, these are flashes. The reason why we're using flash in general, come off the wall a bit, is because flash gives us control. If you're going to go on location, or even if you're in the studio and you want to make a portrait, if you can't control your environment, then you're kind of, you have to work with what's there, which is fine. It's a skill to have because sometimes you may need it. In this case, we want to control our environment. We want to know that all the light that's being used is the light that we're creating, so we're going to use flash for that reason. So again, this is a ProPhoto B1X. This is a 2-foot by 3-foot softbox, which is kind of your standard size softbox. If you were to buy one softbox when you were starting, because I get this question all the time, what size should I get? This is the one. It's good for portraits. It's good. It's big enough that you can do full-length stuff. It is not so huge that you can't deal with bringing it around wherever you go. Now, if you've seen anything else I've done, I often talk about hardness and softness. If you want your light to be soft, meaning the shadow transitions are gradual, you want your source to be bigger than your subject. So this is our source. It's going to be bigger than Marissa's head, so it's going to be soft, right? In this particular setup, which is not my go-to setup for female subjects per se, I'm going to do the classic 45-degree position. So I did just get this question, which is kind of interesting, although I hate to give like very specific numbers on things because I think that depending on what you're doing, you're going to want to change it up. But if you are trying to figure out how far away to put a softbox, you could do one of two things. Either put it as close as you can put it without being in the picture, or put it about the distance of the size of the softbox. So this is like a 3-foot softbox, so I'm going to put it no more than 3 feet away. I know I'll get good coverage and it'll still be soft. So there's the answer to that. That's a textbook answer. And again, we're going to come here from the side. This is in my A group. So this stuff all uses, it's all radio controlled here. And I'm going to separate them into different groups. This is A, this one's going to be B, and that one's going to be C, so we can control our zones of light. So this is the A zone here, so here we go. TTL. Does octagon or rectangle matter as far as the softbox is the question online? Yes, I mean, an octagon box is going to, just by the nature of its shape, it's going to kind of throw the light a little bit wider. So I find it good if you're only going to use one light, because if this was an octagon that was 3 feet, it'd be this, right? So it's going to be bigger. So I'm going to have more wrap and more to play with. I'm using rectangles because these are kind of the more standard softboxes. This one does have a recessed front as well. Most softboxes, I think, now that you buy have recessed fronts. You can get from Shimura the Pro 2s, which I really like, that are flat on the front. It's just a different kind of style. So we got our softbox here. First thing we're going to do, though, before we take any pictures, is we're going to set our camera. And what we're going to do is we're going to set ourselves up so that none of the light in the space is affecting our shot, right? Do this every time. So you guys should be able to repeat it all back to me as I do it, because I do it every single time. Basically, I'm going to set my camera at its lowest normal ISO, which in the case of this camera, which is the Canon 1DX Mark II, is 100 ISO. That's going to give me the least amount of noise. If you go below the normal, like the extra low, that can introduce noise as well. So you want to be the lowest normal. You're going to set your shutter speed at the fastest speed that can synchronize with your flash. There is something called high-speed sync where you can sync faster. We're not going to play around with that today because that's a different class and I have to do that separately so that I can get paid more. So right now we're going to assume that I can only go to 2/50th of a second. Sorry, there's some like yogurt or something on my, Marissa was eating yogurt earlier. She probably got it on my control. Is there a reason why I'm not using umbrellas? Yeah, not really. I mean, umbrellas are fine. I do like umbrellas. There's an entire video on umbrellas you can watch. You can do a lot of things with them. Softboxes tend to give you better edge control, to which I just did a video on, which you guys will see soon. So I like softboxes for this application. So the third number in our exposure triangle is your aperture. You're going to set your aperture based on the space that you're in. If I'm outside, I'm going to have to be much more closed down than I am if I'm in a dark basement, right? Because I have to kill the light that's in there. So for a headshot, I usually like to shoot around f8, and I know from being in here all the time that f8 should be dark enough, but the way that you can find out is you just get in close, and I'm going to use the meter that's in my camera, and I'm just going to move my exposure until it shows very underexposed, which it does right now. So I'm at f8, I'm at 2/50th of a second, and I am at 100 ISO. Now, depending on your style, turn off my thing. Depending on your style, you may or may not use a longer lens, and I get that question a lot too for headshots. I like to actually use the 24-70 for most things, so I'm just going to set my headshot at about 50 millimeter. If you use a longer lens, it will change the perspective of the face, but I'm going to start here. So for number one, I'm going to take a shot with no flash, and we're going to get a black frame, right? This means that none of the light in the space is affecting our shot. We can double check by going over here. And I'm going to capture one right now. I'm going to pull my exposure slider over just like you would in any processing software until I see Marissa. Yeah, I'm almost 3 stops underexposed. So I know now, being almost 3 stops underexposed, that if later in post I have to make adjustments and bring it up a little bit because it's dark, I'm not going to start picking up the ambient light, right? Because I got 3 stops there. Okay, now I'm going to turn my flash on. This has something called TTL. Do we ever update the? No. I'm not sure if we updated the firmware or not, but I think we might have on these.
In the B1, not the D2.
Okay. All right, this is fine. It should be good. So turn towards me like you're getting a headshot done. Like you're getting a headshot done. Okay, there we go. Straighten out. So I'm just going to bring the light in, take a shot, and I'm going to get a base exposure. Okay, it's a little hot because this is the one that we didn't update the firmware, I guess.
That's one yours.
Okay. It's a little hot. It's not tremendously hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my exposure slider down to see where I'm at. Okay, it looks like about half a stop. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my TTL and I'm going to tell it to underexpose by about half a stop. But I'm going to do it at the camera itself because I only have one head going right now. What we're going for here is a base exposure. Now we're going to see 2 things here, right? Number one, we see kind of a soft light coming over her face, right? Getting a good amount of light on her face. We see a little bit of shadow on her nose, okay? And of course on this side of her face. The other thing we see is what? The background is lit, right? The background is lit because some of the light from the softbox is falling on the background. It's got like a deepish gray, which works. If we want to make the background a little bit lighter, I could aim the box more on the background. There's a lot of things you could do, but I kind of like, the that color gray. That's called Marissa gray, which is perfect for not like Jean gray.
She could be Jean Grey.
She could be Jean gray.
Jennifer Grey.
Jennifer gray as well. All right, so depending on where she turns her face, we can change that shadow pattern, right? But pretty much because I have mine at 45 degree and with this size light at this distance, even if she turns pretty far off, maybe not that far, like there, I'm still gonna get decent light on her face. Like she can actually turn, she's like, that side of my face is better. You know, I still have enough light on that side. It's because of my position. If I were to put the light further back or whatever, I wouldn't get light on that side of her face. This is the reason why this kind of an angle works. If you don't want shadow on her face there's a few different options. In this particular setup, I would use, no, I'll use white. I'll use a Brooklyn reflector. These are made in Brooklyn by Seth, if you guys don't know. He sells them in the back of Adorama at the end of the day. Any posing tips? Sure, we'll talk about posing in a second. Don't be a poser. We can fill in if we want. And if you're going to use a reflector for this, what you definitely want to do is put it on a stand eventually. You know, because your idea here is that you want to get, you know, done. You want to make it easy. Easy is the best. If you're walking in with a lot of subjects, what you don't want to do, and I had a question earlier about tripod. One of the reasons why I use a tripod is because if I'm using a tripod, I don't ever have to think about my camera, right? My camera can just be there in the position it needs to be. I don't have to think about, I got to hold my camera. I don't have to think about where I put it down. And anybody who knows me knows that's good because I lose things all the time. But I just don't have to think about it. And in fact, when I was shooting this morning, right, and I'm shooting, especially when I'm shooting a group, I often don't look through the camera. Put the camera on the tripod, I set it up, I know my composition, I can just look at my subject and talk to them. It's hard to do that if you're holding the camera in your hand. That's one reason why I use a tripod. Today I'm not using one because I was too lazy to carry it. So we'll put it on a stand if we want. I'm not going to do it yet because then I'll hide Marissa and we'll get all kinds of negative comments online. All right, so I'll put that up in a second. But what we want to do here is, okay, that's fine, right? That's like a basic shot with one light. But we want to make this more three-dimensional. We want to add more to it. So we're going to throw a separation light in. So for separation lights, I like to use strip banks. This is a 1x3 strip. This is also in a Profoto B1X. Softbox size what?
Someone's first softbox size.
First softbox, if you want to know what size to buy softbox, if you want to know what size softbox to buy first, you're only going to buy one softbox, I would get this size, 2 foot by 3 foot. That is the classic softbox size. It's good for most things. Okay. If you buy a softbox that is of a different size, much smaller, much bigger, a strip, you're probably going to limit yourself. So when I'm first starting, I would get this size. It's classic. So I'm going to use this as a hair light, a separation light. I've got it right here. What we're going to do is we're going to point it more or less so that it's feathering off. Actually, let me put the modeling light on. You can look forward. Yeah, you can if you want. So I'm basically going to take this light and I'm going to feather it, right? You can actually see it's hitting her hair right there, right? You don't have to do this. In fact, I don't recommend if you do that because you're going to start hitting her cheek, right? What we want to do is feather it off so if it does hit her, it's nice and even, right? It's not this like blast of light on her. So that might seem counterintuitive, but that's basically how you do it. Okay. All right, thanks, Seth. You can put the light back on if you want. All right, so now we've got that in place. We're going to see what it looks like. Again, I'm in TTL. TTL can sometimes be tricked when the light is a backlight, so we want to be wary of that. I'm going to turn off my A light and put my B light on. That's my B light. I'm doing one light at a time so you guys can see how this is going. Summers is going to look at me. I don't know what that was, but there you go. Right? It's very bright. We figured it would be because of it's coming from the back. I chose F8 to have the room dark and to have enough depth of field. Putting on both lights now. There we go. All right. So we're a smidge bright. At this point, I'm going to switch to manual because once I start getting that deep into it, I like to really tweak it little by little and I don't want it to change. We are hitting her cheek a little bit, but what I'm actually going to do here is, today I have a question about posing, so now we're going to actually get her into a better pose. What we're going to do is, she's going to turn her body towards the audience. So always turn your body towards the audience. That's the best way to do it. Not quite that far. Turn back on. There you go. And she's going to bring her face towards the light. Well, a bit, yeah. Not that far. Yeah. Like here-ish. Yeah, there we go. That's going to give us the ability to narrow the body, so we're not cutting her off, so that every shot is not like cut off at the shoulders, and give her some shape and dimension. And you can look at me if you want. If you want. right? And that's going to make her more narrow. Now, because her arm is facing us, it's going to be very bright. So what we need to do is watch that arm. Yeah, exactly. We don't have to go back quite that far, but yeah. I just turned that off. Okay. Cool. Well, I realized that, but I did it from my watch. All right, apparently that watch technique didn't work. All right, that's still hitting you in the nose, even from here.
White balance.
Okay, yeah, I'll do white balance in a second. So we don't want to do our white balance until our lights are in place. Why? Because when I start turning and moving the lights around, they're going to change because they're bouncing off walls, things. So you don't do your white balance until you're right before you're about to shoot. So you want to work your nose a little bit more this way so we don't get light on it. A little more. Good, good. There we go. All right, so she's a little too sideways. Split the difference. Good, good, good. Nice. And we're going to do that, right? Nice and simple, classic kind of 45-degree. You can play around with it a bit. She can move around versus, you know, you can take your right arm and move it out. So we can definitely move you, yeah. You know, we can move her around a bit depending on where we want it to fall. I'm going to turn this down. I think it's a little hot. I usually tend to keep things a little hot, but I'm going to go a little bit down. There we go. You see, now you want to get that. Brought her around a little bit so that we got a little bit of her arm over here because that way we know where she's at. She's got a little bit of light on her cheek, which I think works, as long as we don't get too much on top of her nose. That's what we're trying to avoid, right? The nose, you don't really want light on the nose if you can avoid it. So basically, we're going to work that around nice and easy, nice and simple, you know, as she moves her hand. If you were running, like I'm finding that her arm here is getting a little bit bright, so what I could do, I'm going to do two things for you. I'm going to add my reflector in. First, I'm going to smash her in the foot. So first, we're going to put this in. This is going to straighten up the face to get it nice and even. Thank you, Marissa. Spin that. There we go. Okay. Cool. We're going to bring this in and up. Her arms are getting a little bright down there, so what I'm going to actually do is, I mean, you can do a few things. You could raise the box. Actually, I'll just raise the box. I'll make it easier for you guys. If I raise my box up a bit, and I tilt it slightly. Right, okay. So by raising the box up, of course I literally just blocked it so you guys can't see. By raising the box up and tipping it forward, what did I do there? The bottom of the box is now further from her arm, right? So I'm actually making her arm slightly darker by doing that. So what, this depth of field discussion, because what, people want less depth of field?
I'm kind of wondering like why you went with that bait. Like they're just kind of like.
Yeah, people spend a lot of money on lenses. Like this lens is like $2,000 and like, oh my God, a 2.8 lens, I have to shoot a 2.8. Why? So everything's out of focus? So there's no reason for me to shoot 2.8. My background is completely gray. Whether it's in focus or out of focus does not matter. If my subject is not in focus, that's a problem. So shooting at f8 is how you want to shoot. If you want to shoot at 2.8 because that's your style, go for it. There we go. Now we've got the even light. She's twisted towards the thing, nice and soft, right? I'm going to come in and check. Now I could, first of all, if I went to 2.8 or something like that, I'd probably start picking up the interior light, which would be a problem, right? So that's the other reason why I can't do it here. And we're not using high-speed sync because, as noted, that's not a feature in every single flash. So this is capture 1. There's her eyeball. She's sharp. All right, so here we go. She's like that, nice and simple. And again, she can, now that she's blocked with the reflector, we can basically move her around and she's gonna look decent no matter what. Her arm is no longer super bright. Nice and even, 2 lights, simple, right? If we want with this setup, we can add another light. I'm actually, because I moved the reflector, I'm actually gonna spin this in a tiny bit more because now I can actually get it more around without hitting her nose. I'm just gonna add a smidge more light into her hair. Bring this in. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. A little more light in the hair, just to give her that separation and that glow. One more. Go back this way, how you were. Turn towards the light. There you go, perfecto. Good, good, good. Nice. And then we get that nice clean look, right? Nice and simple. This is basically a 45-degree from the camera position, lighting her with a regular softbox with a little bit of a hair light. You can throw a light on the background if you want. Like I do have another light back here. If you didn't want the background to be that great, because remember, if you're letting your foreground light your background, then you're kind of going to be, it's going to be whatever it is based on the distance. Like you kind of lose some of your control. So by lighting it separately, we can actually have a little bit more control on the background. So let me just quickly, I'm going to kill these two lights. And I'm going to turn on my C light, which is my background light. Put it back in TTO. And I'm just going to blast it across. Now it's in a softbox, so it's going to kind of feather it out because I don't want to use a plain background. It's going to kind of start lighter and go darker because I got it on one side. And now it's like practically white, right? So I can dial it in wherever I want. What I'm going to do actually, though, is I'm going to, on the camera? The flash is currently in TTL. Okay, but now I'm switching it to manual. So I use TTL just to get my base exposure. If you're going to put a subject in front of a wall and light the wall and put it on TTL, they're going to be a silhouette. That's basically what's going to happen because the wall is going to blast back light. Yes?
Yeah. The TTL, when the flash was on top of the camera, we know that the lens measures the distance and, you know, but what about when the flash is far from the camera? How do they know the distance between the flash and the person?
Magic. Okay, so the question is, how does the flash know the distance? The flash doesn't care what the distance is. The flash doesn't care about distance. The flash cares about exposure. The way TTL works, without going into a full TTL video, is there's like a tiny little photo assistant inside the flash, and it runs out with a light meter, and it meters it. And then it runs back and tells the thing. Doesn't matter the distance. It does not care. Okay, so turn towards the light a little bit more so you don't get light on your nose. Here we go. Nice like that. Turn, there you go. So now we've got like a, oh, what happened there? Oh, okay, I was looking at that screen, which I should not have done. There we go. Now we've got kind of a whitish to like light gray on our background fade. And we've got, she's lit nice and evenly. She's got a hair light, nice and simple. You can light the background a million different ways. Light background, don't light the background, that's kind of up to you on this one. But this is your classic kind of 45-degree box. Makes sense? Nice and simple, right? This one's not hard. Do the easy one first, right? Yes?
So how is, I mean, right now you have a younger model.
I do.
How is this going to work with, say, an older person, someone who's got wrinkles, someone who's got bags under their eyes?
So how would it work with an older person? It would work exactly the same. Okay. Do we have a volunteer? Yes. Oh, I thought you were raising the volunteer. I'm like, you're not an older person.
Swap out the right hands.
Do we have an older person? No. Yes, question.
Okay.
Do you want to volunteer? Are you trying to get a free portrait? That's what you want. You're beautiful. Come.
Only if you make me look really
You're
good.
gonna look as good as you look because that's what you look like. All right, let's go. We got a new lovely model. Yes. Am I using a 4x3? That size softbox? I would. You could. I could. Yeah. I mean, if you're only gonna have one, Marissa, she's gonna show you up. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. All right. So we're switching to hey. All right. So what is your name?
Terry.
Terry. All right, so we got Terry now. Marissa's gone. All right, so you want to work towards the light.
Okay.
All right. Just like the Mona Lisa. There we go. That's good. Well, beautiful.
The rest of Marissa can shoot.
Do you want Marissa to shoot it? Go ahead. That's not bad, right?
No.
You're beautiful. Come on. She's like, I got it going on. Marissa, really?
There you go, Marissa.
All this time.
Oh, that's good, though. That's very nice.
All right.
There you go. Work it.
Get it, girl.
She's horizontal. I tell you, these kids, they love to go horizontal. That's good. Nice. See, the background's a little bit too in focus now that we have the light ripping across it, but I'm not changing it because normally it wouldn't matter if we had clean paper. That's beautiful.
It's not shooting.
What?
Oh, wait, now it is.
Do a vertical, kid. Atta girl.
Oh, that is beautiful. Yes.
And there you go.
You can sit down. That's not too bad. But I mean, you're a little like overexposed on it too. It softens the wrinkles, right? Not bad.
You're not overexposed. You're just looking at a bad screen.
Okay. All right.
You're beautiful.
Okay. A little Photoshop.
Where?
Under my eyes.
No, oh, you're glorious. All right, there we go. Wonderful. There you go. So yes, this is actually a really good and relevant question, right? Because this is right. Light is light, and there are certain types of lighting patterns that are not going to be good for some people. You know, honestly, and I'm not just saying this because I'm nice, well, although I am kind of nice. You look beautiful. I would not Photoshop this picture. I think it's perfect. In fact, it would look weird if I Photoshopped it because I can see what you look like. You look gorgeous. So this is good for anybody, right? I'll give you my number. Yeah. So this is nice. Even with Marissa shooting it, it was not bad. She got the hang of it after a while, but you know, but yeah, this is nice and clean. There will be times where you're going to have certain lighting patterns, none of the ones we're going to talk about today, that will not be good for some people. Like I definitely could make you look terrible. Like I mean, there's ways to do it. Hard light, overhead, yes.
What if she had glasses?
What if she had glasses? If she had glasses, she could not look into the light.
Okay.
That's it. Easy as that.
Unless
Okay.
Gavin Hoey.
Unless you're Gavin Hoey, because he can do anything. All right, done. That's number one, right? I think we're ahead of schedule. I'm just going to hang out for a minute. Take a little break. No, I'm not. All right, so number two, we're going to go with something actually which is more traditionally how I would shoot a female subject, which is I'm going to bring the light overhead and do what this is a, I don't even know what they call this lighting. I'm going to call it Rembrandt. It's a Rembrandt lighting. It's Rembrandt lighting. So no, what we're going to do is we're going to switch to a butterfly lighting pattern, which is basically overhead, overhead and in the front. I find this to be the most flattering for most female subjects especially, and it is usually the one that will even out the skin the most. But we're going to do what's called clamshell, which is basically doubling it up. So, all right, so. No, I'm not going to do this one. I'm going to use the other one. Now, whenever I'm doing a clamshell light, and I know that I seems out of place, so I feel like I'm another person who knows, I usually put a smaller source on the top and a larger source on the bottom. That's how I like to do it, because I feel like the smaller source is going to give us a little bit of punchiness and cause a little bit of shadow, and then we're going to use the controlled light of the clamshell to fill it in with our secondary source. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to, I'm going to put this one in first because it's right there. I'm going to have one light below and one light above. Actually, I'm going to take the whole arm. So this is a C-stand arm. If you don't have this, you could just use a very small stand and put, actually I could probably not put it on the arm. I'll do it without the arm. Although I feel like we ran into this before. Hold it for me. We ran into this once before and then we ended up like standing on stuff and it was kind of weird, but we'll figure it out. Because Adorama only has one sandbag. In fact, if a customer comes in and wants to buy the sandbag right now, we are completely out of luck. It is the only sandbag in Adorama. Yeah, this might be too tall. Now I'll make it work. Okay, so this one we're going to put right here. This is going to be our fill light. Right? And then above her, we're going to put our key light, which is going to be our main light. First of all, it's not flattering to say anybody has a fat face. So whoever's saying that, right, maybe learn how to talk to people. Yeah, that's the first lesson. Yeah, I mean, if you are shooting with somebody whose face is a little bit wider and you want to make it more narrow, you typically want to use a light right from the center above and something smaller because that's going to cause shadow on the cheek, which is going to make the face seem, less wide. I know everybody thinks I'm like very like touchy-feely when I say that, but the reality is that if you're shooting somebody, you should try to make them feel good about themselves and not say they have a fat face, because that seems like kind of a jerk thing to say. You can say it to Marissa because she thinks everything's funny. And she kind of does have a fat face, actually. All right. All right, so here we go. We got our clam, little clam bake. Is that going to hit you? Okay, it might be too close.
Yeah, I'll do Matrix style.
Matrix. All right, so thank you. So basically, I'm going to take this frontal light. Oh, you look beautiful. This is exactly perfect. So this light is going to basically light her from the front and drop it down. You know what I'm going to do? Because let's imagine that she has a fat face.
It doesn't take much.
Young Marissa with the fat face. So I'm using the strip box, right? And if we're talking about this like wider face, why would I turn it like this? Because then the light is more in the center and it's going to have fall off on the side, right? So I'm going to turn it this way. Plus it's kind of cool. People will be like, what are you doing? You got that? No, don't worry about it. I got it. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go like that. And I'm basically creating. We're definitely in new territory here, guys. So we'll see what happens. All right, so is that the B light? All right, so I got them reversed, but it's fine. All right, so our B light is our key. So that's the strip.
They're asking if you can achieve this with one light source.
Can I achieve clamshell lighting with one light?
The reflector.
Yeah, with the room.
I mean, you could use a reflector. That would be fine, I guess. You just wouldn't have as much control. Normally I do it with the reflector first, but I just jumped right into it because I was feeling motivated. I am a go-getter. All right, so I'm back in TTL. I'm just going to fire this B light. For this one, this is like the modern look, so I'm going to go in tight and chop the top of her head off. All right, that's not terrible. You look like a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, the light's a little rough. Actually, you know why? Seth knows why. Which one, this one? Well, yeah, no, I am going to do that, but this is also too close. What's happening is the top of her head is getting more light than than her face because she's leaning forward like that.
Oh,
I got it. I won't drop a light today. I promise.
I mean, it's your light.
Yeah, it is my light. That's true.
looks like an album cover.
See that? That's, by the way, what you say when like you don't think it came out good, but like you want to convince it. You're like, no, it's like your album cover, man. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Which is kind of insulting to people that do like album cover art because people imagine like the crappiest photos are on album covers. All right, here we go. Nice. All right, so work your chin up slightly so you don't get such a gigantic forehead. Work it. Good. There we go. Ooh, it's like an album cover. All right, so now we've got the butterfly going on.
Can you clarify that light's not on?
The light in the bottom is not firing. However, is the background light firing? Looks like it. Yeah, it is. All right, that's firing though. This is not. Right? Yeah, okay. A little weirdness going on there. Let's try that again, so it'll be more album covery. There we go. All right. So now we've got our base light, right? She's looking all, oh, moody, could buy this fashion item or whatever, right? And this is generally decent. And now what we can do is we can control. So you see how it narrows her face, right? If everybody here in person can see Marissa's face is really, right? Fat face. You think I say words? All right, so, all right, I'm going to just turn on the underneath light so I can do horror lighting, which isn't horror lighting. Let me do some not horror lighting. All right, that's my fill light, right? She's looking like a creep. All right, so that's just the bottom. I'm going to turn them both on. I'm still in TTL right now. I'm going to have to adjust because we don't want them necessarily to be 100% even. Oop, we got the softbox in there a little bit. That's okay. Right, that bottom light is definitely too hot. What's it? I'm at 70 now. So my bottom light is definitely too hot. Essentially, you want this bottom light to be maybe a stop under exposure to start. So we'll go there. If you were using a meter, which would be another way to do it. Okay, still a smidge hot. Okay, bring your face up like this. Good. So what I'm doing now is I'm balancing the light out. Okay, so my B light, which is my top light, is too dark. So I'll bring that up. battery died. No, that's fine, right? Yep, there we go. Oops. I will eventually kick that light right into you. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I made some adjustments because it wasn't firing. There we go, another one. There it is. So now I'm just dialing it in based on what I feel like, right? It really depends on my subject. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm gonna bring my fill light down a little bit, which is in the A group right now. And it really, comes down to who's in front of you and how much shadow you want, right? So I'm increasing the shadow little by little on her face, right? This is all a matter of exposure, right? We got more or less even, then we got a little bit of shadow, then we got more shadow. It really depends on what you want. I think in the middle is probably the best place. So I'm gonna kind of roll back a little bit and add a little bit of light to my bottom light.
Excuse me.
Yes?
Something on your lens because she has to mold that keeps moving.
What? I don't know. Oh. What's on the thing?
It's on the nose cap.
You got, you have dirt on your sensor.
Oh, on my sensor there's dirt. Well, all right, let me stop this whole train and do a sensor cleaning. What, right there? Where?
Yeah.
That? That's makeup. I add makeup in post. It's one of the things I do. Yeah, I don't have a sensor swab with me, so...
Crawford preset.
Yeah, exactly. Here, hold on. Let me do this and see if it works. Okay. Okay. Way to go. All right. So, to me, and I think I've had this conversation many times before, I like to get my exposure closer to the hot side. So I'm actually gonna, I think this whole thing's too dark. So I'm actually gonna bring the whole thing up about half a stop. I know the people online are freaking out right now, but too bad. Yeah, there we go. All right.
It's like my kind of catch lights.
Yeah. Yeah, the dead catch lights. All right. So now we've got this kind of, you know, this like shapely light, right? We're showing off the cheekbones, we're showing off the shape of the face, but it's still nice and smooth and even.
They're asking why there's no catch light from the bottom left.
Why is there no catch light in the bottom? Because of the angle of her face, because of the exposure.
That's a 24-71.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I could bring a catch light in the bottom if you really wanted me to, but what will happen is bring your chin down slightly. That should bring it in. Yeah. Exposure, I guess. Angle. Okay. Now we've got that nice even kind of light on the front of her face, shaping her face. In this one, I'm going to throw another light in the background, though. I feel like that in here, I want to add a little more drama for this. So I'm going to pull this guy off. Instead of using the softbox up here, I'm going to add a grid. What's that? Hey, Vanessa. All right, so this is a grid. Basically, what the grid is going to do, so the grid narrows your throw of light, right? So we're going to take the grid, we're going to put on our light, the honeycomb grid, and we're going to throw, this is like a 20 degrees. And we're going to throw it on the background. A lot of times I'll throw it right behind the person, but I feel like in this case I want to kind of skirt it across the background because I'm in that kind of mood today. So I'm basically going to just kind of, this will make it not quite a circle, but more like a blast. It's a blast.
I like your new haircut, by the way.
Where's I get a new haircut?
No, you did.
Oh, yes, I did.
Luscious.
All right. Okay, there we go. The other reason why Marissa might not have catch lights is because, no, maybe I don't like it like that. I was thinking I'd do this blast across, but I'm actually thinking the center might be stronger. So Daniel changes his mind and quickly moves the light. We only have one sandbag, so just pretend I'm using a sandbag. Okay, gonna bring this guy up and around like that. I'm not gonna go directly behind her, but I'm definitely gonna get it.
That's a 20 degree?
This is a 20, yeah. That should work. What do you think, Marissa? That looks pretty good, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, she's on it. All right. It's also too hot, so I'm gonna move it down. All right, let's see. There we go. Now it's not bright enough. A little bit more. Okay, here we go. Right, now we've got this glow, right? It's a little more powerful, a little more shape to her face, bringing it in, and all these lights are adjusted to your, basically your taste, right? This is a lot more dramatic. Than than that, right? This is cleaner, this is like more open. This other one's a little more dramatic, she's going to prison.
It's my style.
Yeah, but it's definitely a more, kind of dramatic feel. This will be good as a profile picture because it looks good square.
Oh, God. It's like the Omen.
Right. It is a little bit like the Omen. You don't look very happy in that bright shot, though. How come you're not happy?
Oh, I
Did
thought
I not
we were
feed you
doing
enough?
dramatic. I do have one.
I didn't feed her enough, so now she's not happy. Well, no, I meant in the bright one. You can't be happy. Well, you could be happy in this one, but then you'd be like evil.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Hold on. Right, so she could be evil. There we go. And that's what it's like if you want to do an evil shot,
That's what it was like right murder.
Yes, or after. But you wouldn't see her after she murders you because you'd be dead. Yeah. All right. Anyways,
I might have blood.
you have blood.
I might have blood.
Is that any questions about that one? Was that one too simple? Because that's the one I do all the time. That's like my standard Marissa setup. So central light is going to allow you to shape the face more. Actually, let me show you this.
Quick question.
Oh.
Can things look as good as this with speed lights? With this
Well,
similar setup?
do things look as good as with speed lights? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. You could totally do this with a speed light, no problem. What is the disadvantage of using a speed light generally is they're not as powerful, which means that either you'll have to open up more, although at f8 you should easily be able to do it with a speed light, or you're going to shoot a little slower. But yeah, this is definitely the kind of thing you can do with a speed light, for sure. All right. Now, I'm turning it sideways because that's going to throw the light a little bit wider. And we'll see how that changes it. Probably shouldn't be running that modeling light on the D2 with my OCF grid. It's probably going to be melted now. All right, here we go. Okay. So we got the wider light. So we can see, for the fat face question,
They're asking if you could use a round light for the key.
could you use a round light for the key? Well, you'd end up with exactly what we have here.
No, they're asking like if you could physically do it.
Oh, we want me to do it? I don't know if I have a round light. All right, so this is actually a little bit brighter, but let me just show you comparably, because this is back to the fat face. That person will never live that down. You see the difference there, right? Her face is more rounded in the second look. Why? Because the light is spreading out more and wrapping around her face and filling in those shadows. The shadows are what's going to shape the face. If you want somebody to look more chiseled or more narrow, you want to keep that light in the center and let it fall off the shadow. You want them to look more youthful, more rounded, then you want the light to wrap around, right? Make sense? Easy as that, right? So a round light source would just change the default, like a beauty dish. Yeah, we'll use a beauty dish, why not? Just for you guys, I'll use a beauty dish, even though I lug these trip boxes all the way here. All right. So if you wanted to use a beauty dish, which people like to, because they're beautiful. This is a beauty dish, it's 22 inches. This is a silver lined one, brown tape, dent. I treat my beauty dish like the way people treat phones. It's like you forget that they cost so much, so you beat the crap out of it. It's like, yeah, when I bought this and it was $350, I was like, oh.
Magnum?
Yeah, let's do a Magnum. Apparently they're redoing Magnum PI. Have they already done this yet? Yeah, they're supposed to bring it back. Do you guys hear about this? I know, weird, right? I mean, I guess, oh, Magnum reflector.
No dent.
This is my favorite reflector. Little dent, just a little dust. Little, it wasn't there before though, so I don't know who did that.
It's my present to you.
Yeah, thanks. This is the Magnum reflector. Ask me, can you do it with a speed light? Absolutely not. This is the Magnum reflector. This is very special. I'm going to show the inside. This is dappled. I almost said ribbed. That wouldn't be correct. It's dappled. Amplifies the light. It's punchy. Ooh. It is specular. Specular is not a word I use today, but I have to use it a couple times a day. So, specular is your highlights. Specular is bright, right? That's your brightness of your highlights. A light can be soft or hard and still be specular. In this case, it's going to be hard and specular. All right. So what's going to happen here is, besides the fact that she'll be like 18 stops overexposed if I don't reset that exposure, is this is going to really, really tightly shape her face. This is not the lighting that I would use on an older person, necessarily, unless I really wanted to show every bit of wisdom that they've gained.
You want to do the modeling light?
Yep. Sorry, it took me a while to do it. Head. There we go. All right. Now, I know what you're saying right now. You're like, Daniel, can I get a Magnum reflector? I'm not sure you're ready for it. That's all I'm going to say. I will eventually kick that into your face. Okay. Punchy. Punchy and hard, right? Crispy. Chin up a bit. Album cover. Chin up a bit. There you go. Nice. This is the album cover the Queen did. No, so, okay, so that's good. I'm going to pull this back. No, I just want it out of my way. All right. I have to think about how I want to do this. Yep. All right, so I'm going to go like this. By the way, it took me years to learn this technique. You too can learn it for $29.95, 3 times a month. All right. Oh, it's just very low, that's why. All right, here we go. What I'm doing is I'm just going to bring the softbox back in. No. Okay. Now I'm going to bring them both together. Right? And now we've got like a punchier, crispier, more fashion type light, right? Not really a headshot type light. This is much more, this is not the light for everybody, but it's the light for some people, you know? So you got to decide if it's right for your subject. Yeah, the issue with the Magnum, or the thought with the Magnum, is that it can be a bit much on some people. So I wouldn't use it on everybody. That's why it was not part of my initial plan for the go-to headshots. But as usual, we've gone off course. All right, so let's go back to where we were, though. Magnum reflector, if you guys like that kind of stuff. I mean, probably more flexible would be a beauty dish, but if you want to have a beauty dish like everybody else, then, you know. That's not terrible. Not bad, Marissa. All right, beauty dish. Oops. There we go. All right. Beauty dish, same setup. I'm in TTL, by the way. I know that question gets asked a lot. I'll do my lean still. She's happy for the beauty dish for some reason. Right? Big difference with the beauty dish, right?
Beautiful.
So look up at the sky. Right? So beauty dish is more gentle, you know, but still nice. Okay? Also, beauty dish is throwing the light more on the background, you know, because it's bigger. Make sense?
Was that bottom light going off?
Why can't a speed light work with the Magnum? Because the Magnum is designed specifically for the Profoto heads. What's that?
Was the bottom light going off just now, or you were just?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't turn it off, so I would assume it was.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe not. Sometimes I just put random lights over there that don't do anything. I'm just, you know, I wouldn't put it past me, but yeah, it looks like it. Well, what's happening is, okay, so the difference is the reason why it might seem, in both cases the bottom light was going off, but I'm in TTL, so TTL is trying to get a balance, right? So in the first one, the Magnum is so powerful that the shadow is much more intense. That's why in the bottom one it's much more even. Yeah, without the bottom light, the beauty dish would be more shadowy in the face. Right? Shadowy in your face.
In your face.
In your face. So this is pretty good. We can see that she's got some specularity on her chin because it's silver, right? She's blown out a little bit. On the highlights, this is good if you want to get that, you know, that youthful kind of glow. A silver can be really nice. Okay, make sense? There we go, beauty dish. Dent. Thank you. All right, good. Now it's about this time in the thing that somebody's going to ask me about the background blue. All right, this beauty dish has to come out every single time. All right, so that's 2, right? So we've got, well, 3. This is a bonus. Well, I wouldn't call this for everybody, though. But we've got our... Well, I guess those are extra. Those are bonus. We'll leave those in. That way I feel like I'm doing a lot. And we've got our... scrolling up to the first one.
They call it the beauty dent.
Beauty dent. Right, so we've got a lot of different looks, really simple, changing up her face, right, depending on what we're going for, right? Which one is the real Marissa? Who really knows, you know, that kind of feel. So kind of the third setup is one that I like to use a lot, which is essentially a frontal key with a fill using 2 strips. So basically the... Yeah, well, no, who's that guy that did it for years? He shot all the celebrities like that. I always forget his name.
Yeah, that
Wait,
narrowed it
wait.
down.
Is it like flash?
He shot him with an 11x14 camera.
Oh, Karen Grace.
No,
Because
no, no, no. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 strip banks to do this. You could use any 2 modifiers. I like to use 2 strips because that's what I got. But what we're essentially going to do is we're going to light from the front. We're going to create kind of a wall of light, and we're going to be in the middle of it because the strips are going to run either side. So this is actually how we lit you when I shot you with 4x5. Don't you remember? Uh-huh. When this is all over and I'm sitting at home tonight, I'll remember the photographer that did it for years. He had a whole book. This is literally how he did it. Well, I mean, I guess that's how he did it. I wasn't there. So what's interesting here is what it's going to give us is the ability to really control, right? No, neither one of those. Yes. Oh. Martin Scholler. Scholler. Yep. Thank you. Free candy for you at the register. Exactly. Scholler. So everybody that's out there saying another person who currently is pitching stuff with this technique was Scholler, who did it for years and years and years. With an 11x14 camera, like a boss. I will do it with a digital camera because that's what I have. But basically what we're doing here is we're creating, there is a slight difference though. The way that he did it he also used a third light behind for fill. Because I've seen the BTS of it. We're not going to do that. That's how you control your catch lights. Because what's going to happen is remember that your catch lights are reflections of your light sources. So if we want to have this like double catch light of the lights in the front, they're going to be blown out if that's the light that's lighting the face. So the only way we can control that is by having fill. If you're all about catch lights. I'm not really all about catch lights. I'm all about the Benjamins. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what we want to do here is we're just going to double up like this. So what does this give us basically, besides awesomeness? It's going to give us even light across the face, but our camera is going to be able to be dead center, right? And by putting our camera in the center, we're going to be able to, kind of be inside the light source. You can get a similar effect using a really, really big box and just standing in front of it. Like, there's a lot of ways to do this, but this is just one way to do it that I think works really well. Because what I like about this is that we can actually dial the lights up and down and even move them to get different effects. But for now, we'll start dead center. The only downside to this is if you do not do it evenly, you're going to end up with double shadows, which can look really bad. So you want to be even. So, all right, okay. All right, so I'm going to now I'm going to put in TTL because that's how I roll. Yeah, ring light could be similar in the sense that it's even. It would just be harder. Again, this is depending on the sources you use. You could use giant strips. You could use 2x3 soft boxes. There's a lot of ways to do it. Plus, it's like you're hiding inside the light, which is kind of fun. It's like I'm inside the light here. Nobody can see me. There we go. Right, first try.
After 3 decades.
After 3 decades. All right, and we got the double catch light. They're not the long ones. They're only the 3-footers, so you don't get them all the ways across the eye. I'm sorry. But see, it's nice and even. And what we can do here now is this is going to be flat, right? All the shadow, for the most part, is going back. We can actually see a little shadow under her chin. See, right there. It's giving her that little rim, right? But all the shadow is essentially behind her. And it's lighting the background a bit because, of course, it's going past her, right? And we can do, if we want to use that grid light on the back, because that was kind of nice, I can turn that back on. I've already set it up, so that makes life easy. I'll come in, hide between here. She's going to be like, I'm Marissa, right? She's going to close her eyes and kill my catch light. This technique is all about the catch light, and you're going to close your eyes.
Okay, I'm ready, I'm ready.
All right. You see what I have to deal with here, people? Bring your chin up a little bit. Here we go. Okay. There we go. Ooh, nice and flat, nice and even. Yes, you get a flat light from a ring light. The nose would be darker out here, and the whole thing would be harder. So the whole point here is that we've got essentially creep eyes.
You get a jawline this way.
And a jawline, exactly. We like a jawline.
I like the jawline.
I like the jawline.
You really want it? You really?
Really.
This is very new for me. This setup is very new.
This is new. All right, good. That's good. That was too easy, though. Hold on. Pretend like it took me longer. Okay, so no, now we can play around with this, right? This is basically how you want to do it. Easy. We can do a lot of things here. Right? I like it really simple, right? And I even like that little bit of light in the background, kind of giving some texture. But if you want to funky it up, I mean, we could be like, if you want some funky cold Medina.
You want a gel?
Oh, a gel.
Do you want a gel?
Yeah, why not?
What do you want to do?
Let's do red because she's devilish.
You want to do red with a redhead?
Yeah, red with a redhead.
So cliche.
I know.
I call it Daniel setup this time.
What if I gave you like
I
a
stole it.
reddish mango?
Reddish mango is perfect. No chocolate.
You want to do that one?
That is perfect. Let me just see what this looks like first. I'm blasting the back of her head with light, like a boss. Oh. Forget that happened. That didn't do. I got to take the grid off.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, all right, that was.
You got about 2 millimeters of hair left.
All right, well, that's what a grid. I was trying to demonstrate what grids do. That was a demonstration of what grids do. Don't worry about it. Well, because it's coming from below, it's going to be like whoosh. Argentinian style. There it is. Well, it's still not much, actually. Bring your head back like this. Yeah. No, I'm looking over. It's nuts. It's like your head's on fire, but not in a good way. It's got to be higher, I think. All right.
You can use the magnum maybe.
I could use the magnum. So what we're going to do is, because I'll kill myself. Actually, the way to do it is like this. I was just being lazy.
You just put on the shorty.
Yeah, I could do that. I'm just going to come from above. This is the, the time that I do the over-the-top hair light. That I need a sandbag. Where's that?
Yeah.
Can you give me the sandbag?
Oh, yes.
Lift with your knees. Okay. Come on, you got it. Go, go, go. Perfect. Good job, Marissa. That's why we keep her around. You thought it was for the puns. Okay. I feel like lately we've been getting into this like weird lens flare world.
Yeah.
So we're just going to stay there, I think. All right. What do you think? Are we doing the red gel, or are we just going to?
You want to do the red gel? You want to get a shot off first?
Well, let's try this first.
Yeah, there you go.
This is going to be over the top hair light. That's Marissa's high school picture.
That's so much better than my high school picture.
She's like, I'm part of the Glee Club. No, I'm not making fun of people who are in the Glee Club. Yes, I am. We didn't have a Glee Club.
Wasn't invented yet.
We had choir. If you want to be cool, get like your whole set in the shot. Like this, I'll show you how to be cool. This is how you be cool. Right? It's cool, right? Yeah. See, told you. That's how you do it if you want to be cool. But if you don't care about being cool, like I don't really care. Let's get in close. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yep.
All right, so basically, that's how you ruin the perfectly nice lighting setup that we had, if you want to learn. This is the example of, like, yeah, you should stop when you're ahead. But I think with this particular style of lighting, this kind of double strip box light, I think your best bet is generally going to be either simple, like this, or light the background white or whatever color you're going to light it. Because the whole thing about this is that it's subtle, right? Unlike a ring light that's like in your face, like smack. This is even, but it still has this kind of softness to it that adds a little bit of texture. It's kind of formal.
Also change the structure by the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. And you can change the structure by the pitch. But we can also turn them on and off and change let's actually play around a little bit with that since we got a minute. I'm cranking here. Any questions? Yes?
With this kind of lighting, you never use a reflector.
Would I use a reflector? You mean like underneath? No, you wouldn't need to because it's even. No, the only reason why you need a reflector is if you, I mean, I guess you could bring them up high and tip them, and then you might use a reflector, but then it's really not technically the same thing. Okay, we'll try that. So I'm going to do this here. First, we're going to go like this, right? Oh.
Wow.
I did that on purpose. I mean, that was, yeah, I did that. Yep, there you go.
It's like you're going to listen to my music.
She's like, this is for my EP. It's an extended play.
I live by the Williamsburg Bridge.
Under the Williamsburg Bridge. All right, so do that same thing. I'm going to turn off the B light. I'm leaving it there. Listen, if you leave the light in the shot by mistake and it works, you just got to go with it. That's just like the way life is. All right? There is a weird thing coming out of the side of your head, but really? Right, there's our shadow. Let's do it without sticking your tongue out, like a Snapchat. I used a Snapchat. Shut up. I said like a snapshot, not the Snapchat. Like the Snapchat.
Adjusting your sensors in your Snapchat filter.
It's my Snapchat filter. All right. So but just keep your head straight like this. There we go. So here we can do like a Rembrandt. Like a Rembrandt. Rembrandt. No, it's not a Rembrandt. Well, we can add drama for your mama. I actually kind of am liking that shell, so I'm just going to leave it. I'm probably going to hate that tomorrow, so let me get this out of here. You like it in the moment, and then later you're like, what was I doing there? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely okay, I guess. If that's what you like, you're allowed to like it. I will not judge you. Yes, I will. All right, so we can play around with this. So, okay, so here we go. This is just the one light. This one. Oh, okay, you can look that way if you want. Right? Right? And that's just one side. So you can still get away with that, right? See how this shadow now on the back of her head, if I was to turn both lights on, we're back to our flatter light, right? So it kind of depends on how you want to play it. So go ahead and turn, yeah, keep your, yeah, exactly, turn that way. I'm going to turn this light off. So now we're just using the light to my, to camera left, right? So that's a shadow there. If we want to use just the camera right, yeah, you can do that as well. So this allows us to play back and forth as well if we want to do that. You know, you basically, like, oh, it's just so weird. Oh, you know, or you can just do even, right? Make sense? Easy? Questions? Was that one too easy? It was too easy. I got to make it more difficult next time. I don't know what to say. Oh, you know what we can do? One more because I got time. You know I have to have one more. You know what I do? Oh, interesting. Well, I don't have 3 strips though.
Well, you're unprepared.
Well, no, I was gonna do.
Oh yeah, do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, can I get this one?
It was like your planned go-to setups and you get to do any planned go-to setup.
No, these are I did 3 setups that were planned. You have to dig through the thing to figure it out.
Yeah. There's some Easter eggs.
There's definitely some Easter eggs in here because people ask me questions. I got to do it. I'm like a trained seal. All right.
They were asking if they were even power.
Yeah, they were even power. The lights were evenly powered. I had it in TTL because, well, why not, right? Okay. So now we're just messing around with the catch light pattern at this point, right? I'm trying to get them at roughly the same plane. So I'm using the arm to get it in closer. You know, roughly. See you in there. Okay. Yeah, close enough. All right. Yeah, we can do that as well. Now we're back to almost basically a clamshell lighting again, right?
The one light.
No, they're both fine.
Oh, they didn't go well. Yeah, this is all.
Aha. I think the battery died. There we go. It was half a clamshell. I was wondering why it was so shadowy. Oh, there we go, that felt better. All right, a little hot. That's a little hot. Okay. Yeah, there we go. You know, not as good on Marissa, I don't think.
Show them
You gonna turn it down a bit?
yeah.
Ah.
Oh, you knocked it off. It's off. The battery's coming off.
Ah.
Wow.
Did I break it?
You might have. Okay.
Did you break stuff?
Don't touch, don't.
I'm not going to touch it.
Don't.
I'm not touching it.
Okay. No, raise off. You will knock it off.
I didn't
It keeps
touch it.
hitting this.
This is all planned. Nice and even. So that's what you like. I'm not sure I like this as much as the other version because now with the wider light sources, she's getting a little bit too filled in, I think. So personally, not my favorite, but you can move these around in all different directions depending on what you're doing. You can also triangle it. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, depending on the face that you're lighting and how you want the pattern to fall. You know, we could do this. So don't feel limited. I mean, the point of some of these things is to play around and see what might work depending on the subject that you have, right? That's gonna make her turn her head sideways. Right, and that changes it a little bit too. So depending on your subject, depending on what you want it to look like, you can kind of mix this up and change around the pattern of moving them around. Make sense? Easy? Any questions? Because I think that's pretty much it. I think we did a pretty good job. We got, oh, let me show you the three, because Seth doesn't think there was three. Yes? Yeah. Okay.
When doing headshots, where should the focus be on the camera? And like, if you could just give a recommendation of like where to shoot, like upper body, you know?
So where should the focus be when you're shooting headshots?
Coverage, yeah.
And coverage?
Yeah, like for a headshot. I'm new, so I don't know anything about this.
Okay, well, I mean, when you're shooting a headshot, you should focus on the eyes. I mean, generally, if you're shooting people at all, you should try to focus on their eyeballs. That's going to make the most sense. That's usually what people want to see sharp. So, especially in headshot or portrait, because you're literally shooting their face. You want to make sure their eyes, if they're facing you, then both eyes should more or less be in focus. If they're turned slightly, then the closer eye to you is generally the preferred place to focus.
If they are two persons in the middle? Or
What?
if there are two persons in one photo?
If there's two people, then you focus on the woman. Okay? So, as far as how much you get in the shot, because cameras are, you know, most DSLRs are like 3:2 format, you're going to want, if you want to leave enough space around so they get their whole head like this, then you're basically going to want to get like chest up. But it kind of depends. If you're doing something more of a beauty portrait or something more dramatic, or you're going to shoot it square, you may have to get, like if I know it's going to ultimately be square, and I want this much of her in there, then I'm going to have to shoot more or less, right, to keep it square. So I have to think about that. Think about your final usage of the image. If you're talking about actors' headshots, a lot of times they end up as an 8x10, and a lot of times they end up horizontal these days. So you want to consider that too when you're framing. If it's like for a LinkedIn or whatever, you want to ask people. When they come to sit down, you can ask, hey, what are you using this for? Is it for a LinkedIn profile? Is it going to be for a magazine? You know, if they don't know, it's better to shoot wider because you can always crop it down, right? So, but I would at least leave, you know, this to be safe unless you're sure that you want something else. That's a good question, though. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Do they always have to look at the lens?
Do they have to look at the lens? It depends. I would say in a headshot, and we're talking about a commercial photo, usually it's a good idea to have the person looking into the lens. I wouldn't say they have to look in every shot. Some of my favorite shots are when people happen to be looking away because they're laughing or something's happening. But generally speaking, yeah, you should have the person looking towards the camera for a headshot. If it's some artistic portrait, they can look off to the whatever, but a headshot, they should look at the camera. Other questions?
What's the focal length that's like truest to the face?
Oh. Truest.
All right, Autumn, calm it down.
What is the focal length that is
Calm down.
truest to the face?
Oh.
So, yeah, I mean,
Now she's going to ask for it every time we shoot her.
that is a good question. So what is the focal length that is truest to the face? Most people consider a 50 to be the most normal, meaning the least distorting.
Yeah.
So 50. That's not what most people want to use for a headshot because people want to look better than they look, right? So basically people usually use longer lenses. Something like an 85. I prefer a 50 myself because that's how I shoot. But people like 85s, 105s, 150s are good. You start getting too long, I think it starts to really distort, especially on people with squared off faces. They start looking really wide. I don't like that. Kent Miller says exactly the opposite, but that's what makes photography awesome. I personally shoot with the 50, almost always, 85 at the longest. Anywhere from like 85 to 120-ish would be a good length for an average for headshots. Maybe 150 even, yeah. You want to go longer?
I go wider.
Yeah, you go wider. Well, wider too, but I'm talking about not distorting people. That's a portrait, really. Yeah, you can go 35. I like 35 as a good focal length as well, but yeah, it really depends. 50 is usually good, though. That's a good question. Yes?
What do you do differently for actors' headshots versus LinkedIn profile or portraits? Is there anything that, like, in terms of posing? Or
that's a good question.
lighting?
Okay, so what's the difference? Or what would you do different if you're shooting an actor, let's say, versus like a LinkedIn or a CEO or something? Well, I think no matter who you're shooting, intent is important, right? So an actor is trying to show very specifically their range or their personality or the characters they might play, whereas like somebody for LinkedIn is trying to show a certain persona of the job they're going to try to get. So that's really the difference, right? If the actor is trying to play hardcore CEO and you're shooting a hardcore CEO, then it's the same on some level, right? But usually in actors' headshot too, I tend to shoot more open, like less shadowy than I would something else. Like if I was shooting you for your company and you were wanting to be dark and powerful, I might throw more shadow. Usually in an actor, I'm generally not going to do that because I want to get a truer look of you. Yes?
Wouldn't that depend on the scene that they go for, the look they go with on an actor?
Well, yeah, but an actor is not making a headshot for a very specific role generally, right? He's asking would it depend on a scene. Because they're not making a headshot just for one scene, you want to get a headshot that shows them at their finest, usually in pretty flat light. That's why most of this stuff has not been super shadowy. For that reason, you want to show their whole face. You want to see what they look like. You know, you can amplify, but put it this way: people know. Like if somebody's looking at actors, when the earlier question about the fat faces, if you got a fat face, and the photographer spends a whole bunch of time either lighting it, like we did here, to make Marissa less fat-faced, or retouching you, and then you show up for that audition or you show up for that date if it's a Tinder profile or whatever, and you're fat-faced, that's not going to work for you. It's like,
Oh my gosh, you can't just use the phrase fat face.
hashtag fat face. So, anyways, my point is that people, you should try to make people look the way they look as best as you can. That's my personal opinion. I think it's a lot more important as somebody sitting down making a portrait of somebody to get them to feel good about how they look than to try to change the way they look with some kind of technique.
Own a fat face.
Yeah, own that fast face. I mean, I got no neck and I'm fine with that. It's like, that's just the way it is. All right. Well, or maybe it's all neck. I'm not really sure which ones you want to define it. I'll get that beard, cut it really tight.
Mainly your posture got it back.
Yeah, it's because of my posture. Yeah, if I was, no. Anyways, any other questions? This is Seth. He tells me yes. Yes.
Sorry, I walked in a few minutes late, so I may have missed this part. But I noticed on Capture One you're stopped down by 0.66. Why do you have it stopped down within the program as opposed to doing it in camera?
Oh, I have it stopped down now because I made an adjustment earlier and I forgot to put it back. Yeah. I wouldn't normally do that, but yeah, we forgot to put it back because there was weird stuff going on. But that's a good question. Good catch. But anyways, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. It is, so technically I'm a little overexposed right now. Yeah. Also, sometimes I'll do it. I mean, this isn't why I do it now. I did it because we were messing around and I forgot to put it back. The reason why I might do it, though, is because I like to shoot hot. I've had this conversation with people all the time. Sometimes people freak out. So I will actually shoot it hotter, and then I'll bring it down for them to look at it. That way I can shoot it the way I want, and they're not going to think that they're overexposed. When, in fact, they look better overexposed. But, you know, it comes down to histograms and this and that and science. But that's a good catch. Other questions? Oh, I'm making a face. Nothing? Going. Okay, good. All right, guys, next week, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be in Las Vegas with Seth. We're going to be at WPPI. So if you guys are there, if you're watching online, you're going to be at PPI, come see us. We'll be around. You'll be in the Westcott booth a bunch of days. I'll be at Savage. We're going to do photo walks.
I totally gave
Yeah, you screwed it. Yeah. We'll be walking around. You'll see us. If you see me, just don't charge at me like a maniac. Approach me with discretion. Because if you start, I'm from New York here right now, so like I'm not from Brooklyn.
You'll scream like a...
Yes, I will scream and run if you go coming at me. I'm like, anyways, come see me if you see me there. Otherwise, I'm going to try to do some kind of stream on Thursday. I'm going to get Seth involved in it. So somehow we're going to stream. So follow me, Daniel Norton Photographer. Follow Marissa, Marissa.Roper, not Maria.Roper.
Did you make that mistake?
Yes, I tagged you wrong. Yes. Yeah, guys, I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes.